Good morning. That was beautiful. We may have to engage that exercise again and invite a parish-wide exercise on that. That was so lovely. So lovely. So if you didn't already pick up this morning, we are reflecting on our senses, the full sensory experience of God. And we hear from the prophet Isaiah this morning, do you not perceive it? That is the question that the prophet poses today. Do you not perceive it? The prophet speaks in the beautiful rhythm of Hebrew poetry to God's people in exile, God's people uprooted from their land and life of promise, and God's people also now settled in Babylon for so long that they need reminding. The people's senses have become dull to who God is and how God acts in the world. And so the prophet speaks to rouse the people's senses. Do you not perceive it? That our God is the God who makes a way in the sea. That our God is one who saves, who rescues us from all the trappings of Pharaoh and Egypt. Do you not perceive it? That our God will rescue us again. That our God will make a way in the wilderness for us to return home. Babylon is not our home, and God has not forgotten. We have sown tears in this land, and God is preparing a way of joy. The prophet tells the people that the way God will make in the wilderness will be like the dry ground that led them out of Egypt, but also something entirely new. The people stand at the threshold of God's next saving act, and the prophet wants to make sure that their senses are awake. Can they perceive it? Can they sense it? What do the people see? What do they taste, hear, smell, feel, standing at this threshold where God is about to do a new thing? Because the mystery and majesty of God is a full sensory experience. Do you not perceive it? It is a question for God's people in exile, and also a question for God's people, for all of us, on this 5th Sunday in Lent. We are standing at the threshold of Holy Week, of Jesus' passion. The threshold of God making a way in Jesus the Christ to save us and all of creation. Are our senses awake to perceive it? And if our senses have not been awake, the alarm begins to sound this morning in our nostrils. And that sounds about right, because when we stand at thresholds, it is often the smells that greet us first. Smells that alert us that we are home. At our own home, our childhood home, the home of a beloved grandparent, friend, or other family member, and maybe about to partake of a favorite meal. Smells that usher us across the threshold of new parenthood. Many of those smells delightful, others not so much. As we cross thresholds, as we enter a room, we quickly perceive the smells. And then we discern, are they welcoming or are they ominous? Do we continue to enter or do we turn around? We can choose to avert our eyes. Sight offers a greater perception of control. But smells engage us in a different way. They enter us, and we usually have an immediate reaction. Today, we stand at the threshold of Holy Week, And the smell in the home of Martha, Mary, and Lazarus is inescapable. Mary has anointed Jesus with extravagance, a pound of pure nard. John's gospel tells us the house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. So do we continue to enter, or do we turn around? Is the smell we smell today one of welcome, or is it ominous? Fitting for the threshold of Holy Week, the smell is probably a mixture of both. We hear fragrance and perfume, and maybe that leads us to think that this is an overwhelmingly pleasant smell. But the smell of spikenard, especially in such a radical and really ridiculous quantity, is described by some as piercing, earthy, animal-like, even reminiscent of goats. This is an inescapable smell, and not an altogether soothing one. In his book, Sensing God, and you have in your bulletin today and your devotional pages some other quotes and reflections from this book. But author Roger Furlow shares every thought, every emotion, every action in this home in Bethany would have had to center on the implacable odor and all that it represented. Nothing else could happen. Everything else was paused because of the smell and the odor that filled this house. And then we go back to that part about all that it represented. And here our focus turns to Mary. Mary is leading us by our noses over the threshold into Holy Week. In her intimate act of devotion, Mary is responding to the question of the prophet, "Do you not perceive it?" And Mary does. Mary perceives who Jesus is, who God is, and how God is about to act in the world. That is not to say that she understands it. Again, the mystery and the majesty of God can in no way be contained or expressed. So it's not that she understands it. She doesn't know exactly what awaits on the other side of the threshold, but Mary does perceive it. Mary knows it is the character of God to make a way and to save. Mary knows that it is God's promise to do a new thing. And so with her full self, with the sacredness of her whole body and all of her senses, Mary honors Jesus. She anoints Jesus in the tradition of royal anointing. In the Hebrew scriptures, kings are anointed, not crowned. And Mary knows, she senses, she perceives that her friend is royal, with a reign like no other royal before him. Also, not unlike the father in the parable of the prodigal son, which we heard just last week, Mary pours herself out in abundant love. She anoints and celebrates her dear friend, celebrates him with oil, preparing his body for his passion and also healing his body of the pains and wounds it may already carry. Just as the Magi offered the holy oil of myrrh at his birth, Mary anoints Jesus in thanksgiving for his incarnation, in celebration of his life, of his coming to be with us, to teach and to live and to heal and to love. At this threshold moment, Mary connects the blessing of Jesus' life and ministry to this point and the promise of his passion to come. Life and death intermingled in the smell of oil. Mary perceives it. And not only in the smell of the abundant oil. Mary's brother Lazarus is sitting in this room, and Lazarus is reeking of resurrection. carrying in his very living and breathing body the promise of God to act and to save and to make a way and to do a new thing. By the time Jesus had made it to his friends in Bethany, Lazarus had been dead for 4 days. Jesus still asked that the stone be rolled away, and it seems appropriate to remember today the translation from the King James Bible where Martha responds to Jesus, "Lord, by this time he stinketh. He stinketh. By this time the smell of death has overcome his body." Lazarus would have been anointed with the oils of nard and myrrh, but not even the oils could cover the stench of death after 4 days. And still, Jesus insists that the stone be rolled away. And he calls Lazarus forth across the threshold of resurrection. So Mary and Martha and all of those in Bethany who witnessed this, all of those with senses to sense, know that death and loss and grief is across the next threshold for Jesus. Just before Jesus comes to Bethany, the Gospel of John shares that the chief priests and the Pharisees had given orders that anyone who knew where Jesus was should let them know so that they might arrest him. So the smell of arrest is lingering in this threshold. The smell of the crowd, the smell of the cross, but also the smell of something new. Something like the smell of Lazarus is lingering in this threshold. I'm about to do a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? Mary does. And Judas does not. Or rather, Judas does perceive. He smells the potent oil that he can almost taste because it is so strong. But it does not smell like promise to him. For Judas, he does not want to continue over this threshold. He would rather turn around. Because for Judas, the anointing smells ominous in a reckless and foolish way. Again, he would rather turn around. More like the older brother in the parable of the prodigal son. Judas has witnessed this profligate love of Mary, the kind of care poured out so freely and extravagantly that for Judas it does not fit the expected and tidy boundaries that he keeps. And that scares Judas. And the smell at this home in Bethany moves him across a threshold as well. The threshold of betrayal. Already in this moment, Judas rejects and betrays. Mary anoints and blesses and pours out, and Judas rejects and betrays, and Jesus senses, perceives, and knows it all. And still, Jesus carries the promise of a new thing, of a new world for both Mary and for Judas over the threshold and into Holy Week. Because this is who God is. God makes a way through the sea and through the wilderness and through each of our failings to perceive and sense and accept perfect love poured out for the world. God is about to do a new thing. Today we stand at the threshold. What do you smell?